This was one of the last of the non-digitally composited movies, so we had to figure out ways of filming with cameras and actual miniatures almost all of the images, except for the skeletons that appeared on the skeleton screens. Everything that you see is something that has been created and photographed by a camera.
Well, that's a rumor, isn't it? I think so.
For example, when we see Arnold on the train heading into the Mars City, the camera pulls away from that. You see Arnold in the window of the train. The camera pulls up and you can see all of Mars. It's a geography shot. It sets the exposition of what Mars looks like. And that was done with 3 different scales of miniatures and motion control camera moves that tied them in together. Very complicated and very difficult to do. I think back now when we have the ability to digitally enhance shots, how much easier things like that would be if we were doing them today.
This was the top level of visual effects and special effects that I have ever worked with or that we have ever seen. Because we hired the best companies, the best visual effects people. Everyone was the best.
I worked on the skeleton sequence, which was one of the first pieces of CG in a feature film. Part of the problem had been up to that point that CG didn't look real. It didn't look photoreal. So it took until like Abyss and like Total Recall where things were starting to look real enough for people to include in the film. The way this sequence was done was the original photography was shot. Then later we came back to do the reenactment with Arnold and the extras who had been in the original photography. We then had to stage Arnold later. He came in, put on all of our little reflective balls. All this stuff had to be computed at high resolution, shot on our film recorder, and then we took it and gave it to DreamQuest. The funny thing was that the technology at the time made this whole sequence, which now you could probably do on your PC.
There's a scene in the middle of Total Recall that was, one time was pulled out of the movie, which is where they actually land on Mars. You see all the trains and all that stuff. That scene was going to be not done for financial reasons. And I remember I talked to Paul and said, Paul, that's the only exterior I think we ever show Mars. We must have this. We are never outside. We have no big shots of Mars. That's all we need is 1 or 2 of these things. And it was one of those things I actually talked to Arnold about it, and then it got put back into the movie.
When the studio would start to get jittery about some new $200,000–300,000 set or issue or more days, Arnold backed Paul all the way. You know, it takes a lot to buffalo these studios, and Paul was happy that Arnold was behind him every second, and it helped because he's the cash cow.
We have a scene at the end of Total Recall where they're being sucked out of this, the things that activate to make the air. Well, as we were shooting the movie, Paul had the idea of tilting it so that they would be hanging this way, and it would look like they don't have to have any wires or anything that way.
That was the team of Robotine, who I had worked with on RoboCop.
You got a lot of nerve showing your face around here.
Paul Verhoeven was told, do something really weird, Paul. And he goes, really weird? Yes. Of course, the people looked stranger than in any other movie that you've ever seen.
All that stuff was done by Robotine.
Basically, doing makeup effects, special makeup effects for the picture, and also doing special visual effects, character visual effects, like people transforming, things like that. The difference of the two is that the first, which is the special makeup effects, are applying makeups and things to an actor, so it changes their physical appearance, and they perform with those. The special visual effects, or the character effects, are basically cable-controlled creatures or people that actually transform. There's no actor involved.
We hope you enjoyed the ride.
The fat lady.
We used a real actress so you could see, oh, she looks like him. You start laughing, you think it's Arnold, but then her face splits open. That was definitely a groundbreaking effect.
Get ready for a surprise!
The most complex one, of course, was Kuato.
What do you want, Mr. Quay?
It had to be done with 15 puppeteers that would do would do the arms and the eyes and the mouth.
Bottin had made the thing so real. 2 people asked me if it was a real freak, a semi-born Siamese twin.
No wonder he kept out of sight.
Our visual effects work on Total Recall was given a Special Achievement Academy Award, and that means that the Academy votes in advance that this film has sufficient merit for it to be announced prior to the award show. So we knew we were going to win. It was a peak moment in my life for us to go up on stage and stand there, you know, in front of 1 billion people watching and accept the award.
With Total Recall, I sort of could go out a little bit further and try some different things and become a little bit more experimental. I think the score for Total Recall was, you know, fairly avant-garde. It was very difficult. I remember reading at the time, you know, a lot of the criticism of the score was there was no theme, which was nonsense. There was a very strong theme that ran through it. It just wasn't perhaps one of those kind of things you would go away whistling or something, but it was very thematic, and it went through it all. Paul and I work very well together because Paul can talk to me in intellectual and emotional terms, because you can't verbalize music. How does one describe the color red?
And more violence last night on Mars, where terrorists demanding independence once again halted the extraction of turbinium ore.
The political background for this movie really comes out of the 60s and the 70s. The idea is that, you know, government is bad, even if it's our government. Usually you're allowed to say the other government is bad, but this was the world government that they lived under, and it was oppressing the people of Mars.
Sir, the oxygen level is bottoming out in Sector G. What do you want me to do about it?
Don't do anything.
But they won't last an hour, sir.
Fuck them.
The political idea was, of course, the abuse of the dictator, based on the fact that he wanted to get as much money out of it and put as little money into it. That, of course, was the theme of the movie.
The first settlers are buried here. They worked themselves to death, but Cohagen ended up with all the money.
It's an evil empire created on Mars that was, you know, making the people kind of work for their oxygen.
I mean, it's a parable for our times, and it's a riot of commercialism, you know, gone amok, you know, all of these brand names and mutant people and their kids, and you see what, you know, what this greenhouse effect is about to do to us.
Let's go. I felt it was extremely important for me, from a philosophical level, to make a movie that had 2 levels, and that both levels throughout would always be consistent, and that you could never say, now we are in a dream, or now we are in reality.
It was Paul Verhoeven who honed in on the idea that we should really take seriously the idea that the whole thing might really be a dream.
What is a dream? What is just an imagination? What is an artificial reality? What is an implanted reality?
Stop punishing yourself, Doug. You've got to want to return to reality.
Even at the very end, there is no decision made. And at the very end, he says, kiss me fast before the dream ends, isn't it? If it is a dream. And then we fade to white. The music brings the other team in, isn't it? At the very end. If you listen to the music, Jerry Goldsmith brings in the theme of let's say, of dream.
It wasn't a thing, it was a little motif. I think it was electronic, actually. And it was sort of planted earlier in the movie, I guess, as sort of one of the big question marks.
From the point of view that it was all a dream, he gets lobotomized. Of course, an audience with Arnold Schwarzenegger in the main part would not want him to dream. So to a large degree, by choosing Arnold, there was a preference for reality.
You're not here, and neither am I.
People saw the movie and they came out of it saying, well, was it a dream or was it real? Because I thought that was just kind of people would sort of take that as like just a little curly cue at the end, and they wouldn't really take it seriously. But they did, they got into it.
Do you think this is the real Quaid? It is.
The film was attacked because of the violence. I accept violence on a much higher level than a lot of other people do. For me, it's just another way of showing things. It's my dreams or my nightmares or whatever that I basically give to the audience. The scene on the elevator was a good example on that. An innocent bystander is killed. But I thought, okay, this is just a piece of meat. That's a very uncomfortable statement, of course. This whole body was blown to pieces, really. I shouldn't laugh about it, but I laugh about it because it's film. It's not real. A lot of people have complained that there are 50, 60 people killed or something like that.
Kill them all!
Yeah, that's true. He is supposed to be a really super agent in it, James Bond in Square. So I felt that he was a guy that was able to blow away everybody.
We really didn't do it so it felt like it was exploitation. I mean, it was just horrific.
Consider that a divorce.
The original line was, consider this a divorce, and then he shoots her. But I mean, we felt that was a little too cold-blooded.
The violence in the movie is extreme, yes. And in fact, was more extreme when the movie was made. And ultimately, we toned it down. We had to tone it down because of the MPA gave us an X.
I thought that it fit in perfectly well, the body count, because it was a very hectic kind of a movie. But of course, Paul, I think, gave them that cut, so they have something to complain about. And then he would cut it down.
See you at the party, Richter!
So it was on both sides, were people that admired it and others that really felt it was over the top and disgusting, which is really nothing new.
Your mind, it is the center of your life. It is everything you hear, everything you see, everything you feel. It is everything you are.
We had no awareness whatsoever 3 weeks before. We had a 43% awareness, which is absolutely disastrous.
And with Arnold's Clown, he convinced Carolco that they had to put up more advertising. So the time we opened, it was 99% recognition.
How would you know if someone stole your mind?
I think for its time it did very well. I mean, it made a lot of money, and all over the world, I think at that time it was $250 million.
It was a big hit. It opened very big. And everybody really liked it.
Whenever I go anywhere in the world, Total Recall is always mentioned. Everyone in the world recognizes the title because the movie was so big. That just shows you how big it was in my career, how important it was in my career. And it really made me make a big leap forward because of Total Recall.
Kiss me quick before you wake up.